Okay, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome, welcome. And my name is Dan, and I'm joined on the screen by Renier from Bidvest Alice. And welcome to session 3 of this Financial Modeling World Championships training, live Excel training. It's going to be very, very practical. Today, we're going to be led by Renier. He's going to be taking us through a very exciting case and step by step working through the case, and we are recording the session, so we'll make the recording link available to you, just like sessions 1 and 2. The sessions are being recorded, and we do encourage you to work through the recordings in your own time and at your own pace. The time is here in Johannesburg just before 10 o'clock, so we are still a minute early, and we're waiting for everybody to join us. And yeah, I think we'll probably get started maybe 1 or 2 minutes after 10 with the actual case. So in the meantime, the chat is open, and we would love to know from you. We can't see your faces because it's a webinar, so you can't turn your cameras on, but we would love to know where in the world you are. Welcome to Komal, Mark, Marley, Martin, Mitzi, Nalima, and Kateko, and Tabi Singh, Ramya, Thanet, Vijayaraj. In the first 2 sessions, we had a very, very international audience, people from South Africa, from India, from the UK, from the United States, even at Madagascar. There we got Komal joining us from Bangalore in India. Mitzi's in Joburg. All right, there we go. There's Martin in Sofia, Bulgaria. Excellent. Welcome, Martin. Great to have you with us. Thanet is in beautiful Mossel Bay. I can attest to that. I was there a couple of years ago. In fact, last December, I was there by the lighthouse. We got a soft serve ice cream. Great, great part of the world there. Mossel Bay on the garden route. Welcome to you. Yeah. Renier, where are you joining us from?
I'm currently in a small town called Bethel in Mpumalanga. So I'm currently visiting my in-laws. So yes, there's internet here. So and you were talking about ice cream just now. Interesting. In fact, today is, I think, vanilla ice cream day. So make sure that you get some ice cream, even if it's cold out. Apparently, vanilla is the world's most popular flavor. So go get yourself a vanilla ice cream or soft serve today. Yeah.
I'll definitely take you up on that, Renier. I always used to think vanilla was plain and boring, but a good Madagascan vanilla. Maybe our friend from Madagascar is actually here and can tell us more about real, authentic Madagascan vanilla. It really is delicious. All right, so guys, there's been a lot of people joining in the last minute or so. That number of attendees is going up and up. So welcome to one and all. Please let us know in the chat, where are you joining us from? Are you in Madagascar? Are you in South Africa? Are you in India? We'd love to hear from you. And then I'm going to hand over to Renier shortly, because we've got an exciting case to work through. Yanela, welcome to you, joining from South Africa. Whereabout are you? Okay. Welcome, Anaki. Welcome, Andre.
I just want to share the Linktree QR code again. If you guys are keen on joining, or if you want to follow us on our socials, you can also follow Excel Academy. They're also on the socials. And then I'm from Bidvest Alice, so I work for Alice, or Bidvest Advisory Services as well, the main sponsor of the South African Excel Championship. Next week, Tuesday afternoon, will be the first round of the South African Excel Championship. So please make sure that you sign up, and we hope to see you all there. Like I said last time, if you're not from South Africa and you still want to just participate, or you just want to be part of the fun, you're more than welcome to also join in, also sign up, and we'll share all the cases and all the answers with you afterwards. Anyway, even if you can't attend the finals, you'll still get all the cases. So value-wise, it's still very good value for money, seeing that you get a lot of interesting South African themed cases that will enable you to actually improve your Excel skills. So it's worth your while.
Yeah, brilliant. So Renier, it's 10:03. I think let's get started. Yeah, I'm going to spotlight you and you'll share your screen. You'll take us through. I'm going to fade into the background, and we are grateful to have you here. And we're looking forward to this case with you.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah. So and please feel free to jump in, Dan, if you want to share anything, or if you want to make any observations from your side. I think what happens quite a lot, especially in these kinds of cases, is that you tend to find ways to do things, and it's not always the most effective or efficient ways. And sometimes, well, always, there are more effective ways of doing things. So maybe you figure out some way, and you can tell me. So I just want to make sure you can see my screen. I'm just sharing Excel currently, so should be fine. So I just wanted to quickly reiterate, or quickly just jump back to what we did last week. We had we started with a case called "The Spreadsheet is a Nightmare," and I'll share the case afterwards with you all. I'll share my answer as well, so that you can work through it in your own time, and you'll also get access to the recording, so that you can sort of try it yourself. And I think that's the best way to prepare for these things and to learn. So we ran through, and basically, just to explain, I've got the empty case in sheet 1, and then I've got the case up to the end of session 2 that we did last week, and then I also have my answer with all of the answers for all of the cases, how I did it. I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it in 30 minutes, but there were guys that actually managed to do that. So I think that comes down to experience and to finding a true balance between your best practices and your formulas. And sometimes maybe those guys, I know that they've also got pre-built lambdas that they carry into these cases, which is not illegal. Apologies if I cough every now and then. I'm still not 100%. But yeah, so if you have any questions, or if you have anything that you wanna share or ask, you can pop that in the chat or in the QA. I'm happy to take those questions as well. We've got a full session plan, so I'm going to try and do it as effectively as possible. So just to get back to what did we do for level 1. I said I did it manually. I'm sure there are better ways of doing this. And if you have a better way or a formula for me, happy to put that in the chat as well. I think there's a formula called evaluate or something as well, or something like that actually gives you the ability to feed Excel a calculation, and it will actually evaluate that to a calculation. Maybe if you know what that function is, you can share that with us as well. Last week I also said that I used flash fill to do this. I actually figured out, after talking to one of my good mates, Jason Weber, who's also a case designer and a participant for the Microsoft Excel World Championships, as well as a case designer for the South African Excel Championships. I didn't even see this unwanted character. So the character that was unwanted was actually given to you. So it was actually as simple as just going substitute my text with, well, take away the unwanted character and replace it with nothing. And if I had done that, I could have just pasted that down, and that would have solved it. What I also did was, just to showcase what is possible, I also went and said, well, you know what, we could go and say, that you can see that I played around a bit. So you could go and say, well, that substitute that we just spoke of, then you could have used something like a text split as well. So what's interesting about text split is the fact that you can split. Just want to see what I did here. So yeah, basically you can split by feeding an array in. So I can actually say text split all of these characters. So if any of those characters exist in that text, it actually splits it out as a delimiter. And then I can concatenate that again. So that's what I did there technically. And then I also said, well, what you could also do is you can also use Unicode. And if you use Unicode of lowercase a, you'll find that it's 97. And what's interesting enough is that A is 97, but B is actually 98 and C is 99, etc. So if I combined that Unicode of 97 26 times, because there's 26 letters in the alphabet, and I combine that with a sequence, I can actually spell A to Z. And if I do the same with capital A, I can get 65 because there's capitals in these text in the text as well. I can use the capital A with a sequence of 26. So then I took that a little bit further and said, well, okay, so there I just did a V stack, so a vertical stack of those two arrays. You could have done a horizontal stack or a vertical stack, doesn't really matter of the shape of the actual array. It will split for all of them. And and what I then did was I said, well, split out for me, but use the letters of the alphabet as the delimiters. And what that would do is that would only return the special characters. So that would be that first part, and then I wrap that in another text split with the same word, and basically that would then feed the special characters into the as a column delimiter, and would just return the alphabetic characters now, and then I can concatenate that. But there are much simpler ways of doing this as well. I just wanted to show what you can do based on what we also covered last week. You can then go and write a let formula if you wanted to. And you could say, well, let the word be G63. So you can see I just feed in this word. And then the alphabet characters would then be the V stack of all my lowercase characters and all my uppercase characters. So what I did was I just used the Unicode for A with a sequence of 26 and wrap that in a unit char again to bring back the characters. So the unit char is the inverse of the Unicode. So that would return all the alphabet characters, all the lowercase, and that would return all the uppercase. And then you can concatenate the word where you text split the actual word after you've text split the alphabet characters, and that would return all the alphabet characters, and that would return the answer as well. Now, this is completely unnecessary, but I just wanted to showcase functions like Unichar, Unicode, when and how to use it, and then also VStack. Last week we did HStack, so a horizontal stack, VStack being a vertical stack of arrays, and then a concatenation and a text split. So this just showcases quite a couple of the newer functions that you can use in modern Excel. And then what I did was I said, well, how do I take that let into a lambda? Because now that's one step further. So all I did was I stripped out the word, feeding in the word as a sort of attribute or variable. I stripped that out and just said, well, for lambda, what I need to do is the first couple of values can be a parameter or a calculation. So the first parameter is the word. That's what I want to feed into it. And then I took my same let and I did the same thing. And in the end, in brackets, just to test the lambda, you can put a piece of text, or you can put an attribute for that word, so that Excel actually replaces it, and that helps you to actually test your lambda. So that's how I then created my lambda, and then I just need to copy this. If I copy this and I put it in my name manager, if I go to formulas and I go to name manager, I've got the ability to then and then to then give it a name, extract alpha, and I just pasted that whole lambda there, and then that enables me to use it as a formula in the specific workbook. So now if I did extract alpha of any of these values, that would also give me my word. So I just wanted to showcase there's various ways of doing it. You can actually pre-build your lambdas if you wanted to, and actually import it as well. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to run through it. Like we said, I'll share everything so you can go through this in your own time, at your own leisure, whenever you need to. Question number 3, or level number 3, is essentially conversion. So basically, it's asking you exactly what you need to know. So we want to convert Roman numerals. So we've got Roman numerals there into Arabic numbers, and Arabic was put in caps. So it was actually a tip. Hint, they make it very obvious. Hint, notice how I capitalized Arabic. That is a hint. Okay, so they tell you exactly what you need to do. So essentially, there's a formula in Excel called Arabic, and that converts Roman numeral to Arabic. So wonderful. I just go Arabic of that, and I've got my answer. Okay, and I can then pull that down and essentially get my answer for all of them. So that was as simple as it was. So I just used the Arabic function there. And that's level 3. Not really much more to explain there. It's very easy and obvious. Okay. Then for level 4, the data is out of order, but it's still not bad. Although those cells are merged below, determine the earliest date there was a sale for the combination listed. So what's important is we need to get the earliest date of the sale for the combination listed, and the combination is Blinks and Brown. If I go into the data tab, I've already converted the data tab somewhat, but essentially, I think we only had these, and then we had the units sold. So we only had those four columns, and it wasn't in a table format. So big reason why I made it a table, and as Dan also shared last week, I think in session 1 already, you can just go and put your cursor anywhere inside the block and go Control T, and that would enable it, or it will actually allow you to convert it into a table. And then I just say that my table has headers. So what I did was I converted this to the table to make it simpler and easier for me to actually reference the table in formulas. So essentially, all I did was for the item and the color combination, I saw that in the case, just going back into my answer. In the case, they actually take the first one and / and the second one. So essentially, I just use the concatenation character or ampersand, and in inverted commas a / and another ampersand. You could have used a concat, or you could have used the text join formula as well. And I basically just combined those two so that this can become a lookup. And then the next part is to find the earliest date. So what I essentially ended up doing was I used a filter, and I returned the minimum. So let's quickly rebuild the formula just to explain how that works. So I went and said, so yeah, first things first, you can see that these cells are merged. This was done on purpose because merged cells is difficult to manage and difficult to actually didn't copy correctly. Merged cells are difficult to work with, difficult to select, and I think best practice is we tend to use to try and not use merged cells as much as possible, right? So what I just do is I just copy this across so that I can keep the merge going, and that enables me to actually go and write my formula. So basically, what I wanted, I could have done a VLOOKUP or an XLOOKUP, but then I wouldn't get the earliest date of sale. So that's why I use the filter, and basically what the filter will do is it will allow me to filter that array and include it where it matches a specific value. So essentially what I'll do is I'll just say filter my array, and in this case my array is my dates. So I'll just go and select that, and you'll see that for some reason it's not picking up the table name now, but basically that's my data. So it's A2 to A2001, and then include where basically this combination is equal to my my lookup and in this case, it's that color and item combo. And you'll see that this doesn't work because it's actually referencing two cells in this case, and that's where the merged cells is also breaking it for me. So now you can see that there's a spill error. Just want to make sure that we delete all of these things. I don't know why it's spilling like that, but anyways, it's probably because it's a merged cell. So let me just move this to not be a merged cell. So let's just put it there. And I just wanted to showcase that this is returning all the dates now. And essentially what I just want to do now is I just want to get the earliest date, and that's why I use the min. So I use the minimum of that filter, and that gives me the earliest date, which is the 4th of January 2024. And to keep the formula, or to keep the actual what's it called now? The actual I can't get on the word. But anyways, to keep the same, I just copied this across. So what I just wanted to showcase as well is because I've called this data table data. If I go to my table design, I called my table name data. Because I call it data, I could just refer to the name data field date and data item color. So that's a lot simpler to read and reference than this notation. And that's one of the big reasons why I tend to prefer using table. So yeah, but that's how I did that case, or that level. The next level is level 5, and essentially they're saying, okay, things are getting weird now. You need to sum the total units sold in Arabic numbers. So this is now going to catch some of you out, because we want to we'd want to think that Arabic numbers is referring to not normal numbers, but Arabic numbers is actually normal numbers. Okay, so it's Roman numerals that we convert into Arabic. So Arabic is actually just normal numbers. Okay, so just a tip there. So you need to sum the total units sold for the following combinations, but the units sold data doesn't look right and should be fixed. Data might be text or shown as a Roman numeral or listed in the form of dice. And then they basically show you that that if my dice looks like this, got a number 6 dice, it's a bit difficult to read there. If it's a 6 dice, it's a 6, and a 2, and a 4. So in essence, when I convert my dice, I don't want to convert it back into numbers and then sum them up. I want to actually concatenate them. So I want to put them next to one another, and then convert that into a number. So just so that you know that, right? So basically, what I did there was I fixed my data first. So what I did was, initially when I did the case, I did solve this level, but this took me longer than it should have. I'm sure there's easier ways to do this, but I just went with this way. So if you find a better way, please let me know, and I'll be happy to share that with everyone as well. But essentially, what we want to do is we want to get all of these units sold in the same format. So we want to get all of this into normal Arabic numbers, normal numbers. Okay. So what I did was I again used my Unicode. So essentially what I did was I used the left function and the left of E2, and you'll see with the left function, the second argument, or the second variable, is actually number of characters, but it's in block brackets. And what that essentially means is that it's optional. So so essentially what that means is I can I just want to find the mute button quickly. My mute button's gone. But anyways, so if I leave out the first argument, it's going to return the first character, and then I just convert this into the Unicode of that first character. So what I saw from that was that anything below 50, anything below 64 was considered a number, and then anything anything that had to do with dice. So if I converted a dice, I could see that dice actually fit inside the 9,850 range around there. And then just want to see anything that is okay. So it's actually not Arabic, but Roman. So anything that's Roman would be above. It would be above the 64 range, but way below the 9,000s range. Okay. So that gave me a quick way to identify if this cell, if the first character of the cell is either a dice or an Arabic number or a number. Okay. There's also other functions you can use. You can use is number, for instance, as to determine if something is a number as well. But that's a quick and dirty way that I figured that out. And then I basically just wrote a little if formula to say if it's below 9,800, sorry, if it's above 9,850, it's dice. Otherwise, if it's above 64, it's Roman, not Arabic. So that I named incorrectly. Otherwise, it's a number. And that basically identified them correctly for me. So then I could quickly do a filter of these numbers to say, are all of these numbers? So I could quickly go through and see that they are numbers. What they also did was they also took some of them and kept them as text. I'll show you how to convert that into number formats as well, with the function. And then if it was dice, I identified those correctly as well. What's interesting is that you can that I think dice, the number 1 dice starts on 9856. So if I wanted to convert dice, I could just go and deduct the Unicode, deduct 9,855 from the Unicode of dice, and that would actually convert them into the right numbers. So I'll showcase what that looks like as well. And then the Roman numerals I also identified correctly. So that meant that my function I could then write into to actually convert that into numbers. So basically what I said was if it's a number, so if G2 is a number, then convert that into a number. So I used the double dash or the double minus signal or sign to convert that into a number. So anything with a double dash would convert that into a number, which means that this 8524 would also become a number 8524, which means I can sum it up with another number. So that's one way of doing it. You can also multiply it by 1, or you can also multiply this by 1, and that would have the same effect. Or you could also use the value function. I think that's about ways, but there might be other ways as well. And then what I also said was if it's Arabic in this case, so in this case if it's Roman, that's what I meant, then convert it to Arabic with the Arabic function that we saw in level 3, I think. And then if it's dice, I basically just used okay, so let me unpack this portion so that it makes a bit more sense. So basically what I used for dice was the mid function firstly. So let me just showcase what the mid function does is, in this case I could take this value, and I can then say equals mid of that text. And then what's the starting number? I want to start in every single character because I want this to actually split it up for me. So I use the sequence in this case, and then I use the length function to return the length of this. So if it's 5, it will actually take the sequence of 5. In this case, I don't want the sequence to actually spill rows, but I want it to spill columns. So I'll just put a little comma there before it so that this length value actually feeds into my columns of my sequence. And that's basically what I need to do. My sequence will start at 1, it will run up to 5. So it'll run into every single value there. And then the number of characters, I want to return 1 character at a time. So for my mid function, I just want to return 1 character at a time. And you can see there, it basically spills my dice split up into 5 different cells. Okay, so that's what my mid function does. Then what I wanted to do is I wanted to convert this into Unicode. Okay, so that returns the number or the code point corresponding to the first character of the text. So I can just use Unicode of this text, and that would give me 9856, 9858, etc. So that, like I said, the number 1 starts at 9856, which means that if I deduct 9855 from that, I get the values 13232, and that basically gives me my numbers. I then concatenate that into one string, and now it's still a string value. So now I'll just use my double dash or my double minus, and that converts it into a number. So that's basically what I did. So long story short, I basically got all my units sold, and then I'll just leave that function there in case you guys want to refer back to it. So once I get to my numbers, my units sold, now I can answer all the questions that I need to answer around this data. So sometimes you shouldn't necessarily try and work with bad data. Get your data looking good first, and then work with that. So that's a best practice that I can definitely share from my experience. So essentially, all I did here was very similar to the previous question, to the level 4 question. I used the filter, and I basically filtered to bring back to include from my array. I filtered my units sold, number 2, so the actual units sold that we just calculated, where the data item or color is equal to gears and gold. So where it's equal to gears and gold, return for me, filter for me where that is applicable, and just give me the sum of that. And that gave me the answer for all of them. So a very simple formula after I've fixed my data. Otherwise, I would have needed a very, very difficult convoluted formula to actually get there. So let's get into the fun stuff, right? So it was also fun, but I think it becomes exponentially more difficult from here on. So level 6 is a hard question. The good news is that the bad data is behind you. Okay, so we're done with data. The bad news is that you're in a void surrounded by ghosts and aliens. Okay, so in level 6, they say they stay still while you try and find your way out of the void. Use the starting location and the set of moves shown by the arrows to determine on which move you encounter either an alien or a ghost. Okay, so the void looks like this. If I try and zoom in too much or zoom out too much, it actually crashes my computer sometimes, or it makes it very slow. So I'm not going to do that. But we basically have 1,234. You'll see that then on the count 1,234 columns of void, and we have 598 rows of void. Okay, so what I did was I initially I used Control Shift down and side arrow down and right, and I went and I just renamed this whole block void. Okay, so one of the best practices, rename, especially if I'm going to refer back to this quite a lot, name it something so that I don't have to go and lock my references or anything like that. I know that my void now, I can refer to my void as void. Okay, so my array void has been determined. Now I never need to go back to this void. That's the fun part. Okay, so then what I wanted to do is, so what they gave me here was the icons for alien and ghost. And quick little interesting tip is that you can use Windows and full stop. And Windows and full stop will actually bring up your little emoticons. You can do this in any app, I believe, in Windows, and that will bring back my emoticons. So basically what they did was they went and searched for alien and basically put this little alien in there. So if I go and put that in, you'll see that it looks like that. But when I go and press enter, it's the same character there. And this character also contains a Unicode. It also has a Unicode number. So every single character actually has a Unicode reference. So that Unicode is 128, 125. Dan, see your hands up.
Yeah, Renier, just a heads up that when you pressed Windows and full stop, that's a very handy shortcut, and I love my shortcuts. The issue is that it's actually not coming up on the screen because you're sharing only the Excel window, so we actually can't see that. So it's fine. We can imagine what it looks like, but we won't see it on the recording. And if you want to maybe stop sharing and share your entire screen, then we would be able to see everything that pops up.
Let me do that. Now I just need to find my controls again. Share. Let me share my whole screen one and share. Okay. Right. You can see my screen now, right?
Yeah, we can share your screen. And if you press Windows full stop.
Okay, so Windows full stop. Now it shows up.
There we
hopefully.
go. There we go. Now it's
And there you can see I used the little alien emoticon, so I can also go and look for ghost. And that's what the emoji looks like. And I can put it in there and you'll see that it actually displays a bit differently. But once I go and press enter, it displays in the same way. I don't know why that little other character came in now. It's got a little other character, but yeah, don't worry about that. Essentially, what I just showed was that this has a Unicode, and I can also refer that Unicode back to this little one, and you'll see that the Unicode is 128, 123. So they're actually two characters away from one another. So that's not very important. Just know that this could have been any character. It could have been any value. It could have been anything. Don't let these emoticons or emojis fool you, or don't let them get you panicked. It's as good as any value or any number or any character. Okay, so what I did was I went into this because it's given to me. I went into this little one and I called it alien. And I went into this little one and I called it ghost. So that just made it easy for me to refer to an alien and a ghost in my functions or my formulas now as well. It makes my life a lot easier. So there's a little bit of setup that's required. And then the next step, what I wanted to show is that level 6. For me, the easiest way to build something like this, especially if I don't have pre-built functions or lambdas or anything like that, is to take it into a separate sheet. And I go and copy this little cell called example 6, because I want to do example 6 first. I want to solve example 6 because then I know I can solve for all of them. Okay, so basically I copy example 6 into this little into the sheet, and there's my example 6. And then what I did was I went and I did an XLOOKUP. So all I did was I looked up example 6 from that sheet, column B, and returned column G to column CS. Okay, so and then I transposed it so that it's running down. Another good practice for me is working downwards instead of working across columns is simpler in Excel. And they always say Excel real estate is free, so use your real estate in Excel. So essentially all I did was I looked up these values against that cell that I copied across, and I return all of these, well, anything from this block. So I took it all the way to block CS, all the way down. And then the nice thing is I never need to refer back to that again. So that enables me to go and I'll just put a little data validation just to showcase. I can say, okay, now go to game 92. That automatically changes game 92, and I can see the answers for game 92. So that's my initial setup. I also just use a little sequence, and I just made it start at 0. So that's step 0 is it starts on cell EJ194, and it runs down for 90 moves. And then the next step was I wanted to get the unique moves from this. So all I did was I took the unique formula. So I took unique and I copied that down so that out of the 90 moves, I could get all the unique moves that there could be. I copied this, Control C, and then pasted it for values. So the new function for paste values is Control Shift V. So Control Shift V In the past, you'd need to go Alt ESV, or you could go like Alt F5 or F5, go to special, whatever. So now it's just Control C, Control Shift V for copy, and then paste for values. And then what I did was I said, well, now I want to determine how it moves between a row and a column. So if I'm going left, I'm going one column. I'm going to one column less, but I'm not moving. I'm not moving my rows. My rows staying at 0. If I'm going down to the left, my row is actually going up. So I'm going from, let's say, row 3 to row 4, and my column is also going one left, so one less column. So I basically just built a little lookup for my rows and columns, and I just did this manually, right? And then I went and said, okay, so in this case, I start on EJ 194, so nothing moves on rows and columns. And then I just use my X lookup formula to actually return the whole, well, the whole row of these two to return the row values. And basically I just looked up these arrows back to my lookup. And then with this sum, I'm doing a running total of where my rows and my columns end up. And there's various ways of doing this. There are simpler ways of doing this. This was the logical way that I wanted to show everyone how I would do it. So essentially, all I did was, and a little tip was, I locked. So I want to do this as a running total. So that means when I get to this value, when I get to this point, it needs to sum up everything preceding it. So how I do this is I set it up by going equals sum, and then I go and say start there, and then I just went shift and I think it's called a colon, and that automatically fills in D4 to D4. So the first one would be just summing D4 alone, and then all I do is I go and stand on this D4 and press F4 to lock that cell reference, and then close the brackets. So that then enables me to pull this down, and it will actually automatically expand the sum running down. So that's a little other little tips. I did the same with column and row. So ultimately, this is tracking for me with every single move. Where am I ending up? And then I just use the little the offset function with an indirect. So what does that do? So indirect is essentially a way for me to take a cell reference. So I refer to a cell value. In this case, I'm referring to the void, and I'm referring to cell EJ194. So I'm just joining the cell reference to that void. The easy, fast way to do this is to say, well, okay, so if I want to refer to a cell in void, I go equals, go to void, and then I'll go and select a little alien or a ghost just to make sure that I've got something that is going to return a value. And there I can see my little alien. So to use the indirect function, I can then wrap that in an indirect. And now I need to make this text. So I can make that whole thing text. Okay.
Sorry, Renier, you've used index there instead of indirect.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. It would have taken me, there we go, indirect. So now I can refer to the indirect of the actual text reference for that cell. And then all I did was I basically just removed this little portion and added the cell reference to that as an actual reference. And it's blank because EJ194 doesn't actually have doesn't actually contain an alien or a ghost in this case. But yeah, so that's how the indirect works. And then the offset function allows me to offset from my position. So all I do is I start. So my starting position within my offset. So let's see what offset. Yeah. So basically, my reference that I start at is my starting cell, and then I can tell it to move by that number of columns and rows and columns. And I've got my running total going. So That means if I copy this formula down, it's showing me that on move 7, I've encountered an alien. And then if I continued on rows 36, I would have encountered a ghost. On 42, I would have encountered a ghost, etc. And then just to make my function a little bit easier was I just put another little flag in there to say, do I hit an alien or a ghost? And basically all I did was I used or. So I said or H for alien, or if it's a ghost or an alien, return a false or a true. And basically that would then return as soon as it hits an alien. And then my function just to return that was I used X match. You could use X lookup as well. You could use index, or you could use min fs as well. There's various ways of doing it, but essentially all I said was match for me where it's true in this little I in row I, match for me where it hits the first true. In this case, because I started at 0, I just had to deduct 1 from it, and that would tell me that on my 7th move, which is my 7th move there, I hit an alien. And then what I did was just want to remove this part so that I can showcase what that looks like. I used the sequence, and the reason for this sequence is if I go back to my case, I need to solve now for game 91 to game 110. So I know that adds up to 20. So there's 20 games that I need to add up, and it needs to start at 91. So I quickly just said, okay, so sequence for me 20 rows, start at 91. And that would spill for me a 91 to 110. And then if I select this whole block and I go to the data tab and I go into what if analysis and data table. So I'm sure a lot of you haven't seen this before if you haven't done a lot of modeling, and if you haven't played these cases, or if you haven't participated, I can then say, okay, so this column of mine, the column input cell that I want to feed is this example 6, because this is what I'm using for my lookup. This is feeding everything that is changing inside this sheet. So I could have a row and a column, or just a row or just a column input cell. But in this case, if I just press calculate, because you can see that my calculations are off. If I press F9, if I hover there, you'll see that it says results or formulas may be out of date because Excel is not set to calculate automatically. Click here or press F9 to recalculate. So I'm pressing F9, and that would automatically calculate for me the answers of all the games. And then I just went back into my answer, and I just referred to that cell. So I just went equals level 6, that one, and I could run that down, or I could just have gone with the new Excel. I could have gone equals. So let me just clean this out. So if I remove all of those, I could just go equals level 6 and select the whole block, because I know that it'll feed back all my answers. Then I can see that all my answers are correct in this case. Let's say an answer was incorrect. Let's say 95 was not the right answer. Now I could actually go back to my level 6, and I could feed in 95 in there. In this case, I put data validation, so I can't just type it in. But if I went and fed in 95, the X lookup transpose will actually feed back the rows and the columns, the moves for that specific level, and then I could see physically, I could visually see what the answer should be, and I can see why did my answer not match. In this case, it did. But that would be a nice way for me to actually go and, under time pressure, go and figure out what did I do wrong, what went wrong. So I don't know. We're not going to have enough time to do the whole of level 7, but let's touch on level 7. I'm going to give you the answers so you can work through those yourselves. But that's just to showcase what a data table can do. So why do I do a data table? If I have a lot of moves and a lot of calculations that I need to figure out, and I want to solve it for other cases, I can use a data table to actually solve. So what the data table does is it feeds in the column value, the column input value from there, feeds it into this into the value and actually solves the answer that I return. It solves it for all of the cases. So I hope I've explained that properly. But let's look at level 7. So level 7 is just a little bit more difficult, or a lot more difficult, I guess. But basically, level 7 is you're running around the void. It didn't work, so you decided to stay in your starting location. However, the ghosts and aliens are now moving towards you. Yes, they can move diagonally. Determine the starting location of the closest ghost or alien to your position. The starting locations were chosen so that there will not be a tie. What is the location of the closest alien or ghost from the starting location? So in this case, it gives you a starting location. And in example 7, DK200 is where the first alien or ghost is encountered. They can move diagonally. So let's look at what that looks like visually. And I'll try and explain as much as I can in 11 minutes. But essentially, what I did was very similar to previously. I copied that example 7 across from my case, and then I did a little X lookup to look up that value in my answer and return the value in column G. So essentially, look up the value there, return the value there. Okay, so that's my initial setup. Then the next steps would be to extract the row and the columns. So what I did there, and there's various other ways of doing this. There's simpler ways of doing this, but I just wanted to showcase what I did there was I essentially went and said, okay, so I used my mid formula again. So the mid formula that we saw already. So mid with sequence with length. In this case, I used it as rows so that it would spill downwards. And I'm returning one at a time for the length of that whole text. The reason why it's important in this case is because we're working with cell references that are either 1 alphabetic, 2 alphabetic, or 3 alphabetic characters. So I can't just use left and right because it can start. It can contain 1, 2, or 3 of length text and 1, 2, or 3 of length number as well. So this is one of the most robust ways of extracting it. So I'm extracting my values, and then with the isNumber function, I'm just returning whether that is a number or a character. In this case, it tells me false, false for D and L, but true, true, true for 198. And then I just did a concatenation if it is a number. So that just basically is what I built out in the let, just to try and make it look a bit simpler. So I just said my word is E3, my characters would be the mid of the sequence length, and my out would be the value of the concatenation of where the character is a number or not, whether extracted characters is a number or not, and return for me the characters, concatenate those and convert them to a number. And that's basically what I did there. And then for the inverse, for the actual extraction of the alphabetic numbers or the alphabetic characters, I did the inverse of that. So I didn't convert the concatenated to a number because it's a text, and I just said if it's not a number, so not isNumber, and that gives me the DL116, sorry, the DL. And then what I did was there's various ways of doing this, but I just went and said, well, rows. So I know that I've got 100 and I've got 1,234 columns of data, and I want to extract the column reference. So what I did there was I used, I'm not going to explain this in a lot of detail, but I just basically extracted the cell address with an offset, and I basically offset this by my rows. So you'll see that I basically offset the basically offset the cell reference. I think this was actually, I should have started with A1, but I basically offset this all the way through and return the cell address. So if I just return the cell address without the dollar signs, so I extracted the dollar signs as well. You can try and do this. There are simpler ways of doing this, but this was the quick and dirty way for me. So this was just a way for me to get a lookup of all of the columns that exists in the case, and have a number of the number of the column next to it, the number reference. And with that, I could then look up that back from that rows and columns reference. So that gave me the starting row position and the starting column position. What I also just wanted to show was that with my offset function, I also have the ability to return for me the actual reference within the void. So that would be my cell reference that I'm in currently, to visually see where I'm encountering. Sorry, it might be that one. But I think it's that one. But to visually see where the aliens and the ghosts are, so I can actually see that my first alien is there. So that's a way to use the offset function to visually do that. So I just took the indirect again, and I said less 5, and up to 11. So that was just the column width and the row width and the column width. Like I said, I'll share this with you all because there's a lot of information. But that was to visually see it, and then I also built this out visually using a little block of using the index function as well. So basically, I tried to return all the surrounding, well, not all of them, but at least the surrounding 11 blocks, rows and columns wide of my actual reference. If I change this to game, let's see, a game 111, for instance. My numlock is not on. So if I change this to game 111, you can see it actually changes automatically. So because this is just an index of my void with the row reference and the column reference, column number, the row number and the column number, and it's locked. In this case, the column or the row reference is locked for column, and the column reference is locked for row, so that I can pull this formula across and bring back all my references. And there I can see my first alien, for instance. So yeah, we're running out of time, but you can go look at what I did. Next step would be to have to figure out which alien or ghost is the closest to me. And how I tried to do that initially was to try and determine the absolute row offset and the absolute column offset from my actual cell. And that's what this column and what this function is trying to achieve. So I'm trying to actually deduct my row and my column offset from my row and my column numbers that I know about. And this didn't work because they can move diagonally, which means this if an alien or a ghost is in this cell, it's not 2 moves away, but actually 1 move away. So I'll show you how I solved for that. But essentially, what I also did was I concatenated my row and column reference to one another, so that I can have a matrix of or an array of that. And then finally, what I did here was, this is how I determined the number of moves that specific alien or ghost is away from my cell. So all I did here was, I firstly had to enable iterative calculations. So what does that mean? I basically go into file and options, and when I go into formulas, I enabled iterative calculations. So I basically allow for circular references, because this calculation is actually circular referencing everything around it. So it basically becomes a circular reference on its own, but iterative calculations allows for the iteration of circular references. They're very, very technical, but essentially all I did here was I selected the whole block, and I just took the minimum of all the surrounding blocks for that cell, and I added 1. and then I went Control Enter so that it pasted the formula across all these cells, and it basically determined, starting at 0, determined where how many moves am I away from the minimum of the surrounding blocks, and the minimum of those surrounding blocks would be 0, so it's adding 1. And that's how it got to 1. When it iterates and it goes to the next one, 1 is the lowest surrounding that one, so it's a 2, and that's how I determined that. So I need a bit more time to explain all of this, but I essentially also went and put everything just into columns. So I just went and put all the cell references into a column. This is again just a sequence of the 121 blocks surrounding my cell. My offset is essentially so how far is it away from my cell? So that's basically just the 2 column of this, and then using my index there, I used the 2 column to determine where the ghosts and the aliens are, and again just went and said, if it's a ghost or an alien, tell me if it's a ghost or an alien, and then in the end went and I used a filter because that was the easiest for me, just to filter everywhere where it's true in this block of information. And then what I also did was I said, sort that by the 3rd column. So sort that by my offset. And that returned the how many spaces away the first ghost or alien was. And again, just use the data table to just refer to that first little one. And if it was an alien closest, that's for bonus question 5, I believe. I just fed that back. So apologies, we ran out of time, but I'm going to share this whole case with you guys. If you have any questions, or if you have any concerns or anything, please reach out to me on the socials. I'm on most of the social platforms as well. You can reach out to me, and we can have maybe another session where I properly take you through level 7. But like I said, never would I have been able to do this in half an hour, but it is possible to do with the power of Excel, and that's what I wanted to share today. So yeah.
Wow. It is some hardcore stuff, Renier. Wow. I must be honest, from my perspective, I consider myself a relatively advanced Excel user, but there was so much here that you covered in a relatively short amount of time, and there's always room to learn. And yeah, this stuff is really fascinating and very, very impressive. So well done. And couldn't have been easy there. I know you've got a cough, you're just recovering as well. So yeah, awesome stuff. Renier, maybe everybody's wondering, what's the easiest way for them to get hold of the recording and the actual file?
Yeah, so they can go and look for Financial Modeling World Cup South Africa on YouTube, or they could also go and use that little keep on saying a little, but use that link tree. So I'm just going to share the link tree again on my screen. So that link tree, if you scan that with your phone, so you could go Google the South African Excel Championships as well. Am I screen sharing now? You could go and follow us on the socials. Google South African Excel Championship, whichever way. But yeah, they can also reach out to us and email us from the link tree. So everything is there. Yeah.
Hello to everyone
Okay.
who's joined.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Renier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put that link tree URL in the Zoom chat.
So I guess there's a question. Level 7 is not necessarily always the level you can expect from the competition. What we try and do is we try and make it so that the first couple of levels anyone can do. But we also want to make it for the seasoned veterans. We want to make it challenging. So that's why we typically have a level up to a level 7 sometimes. But not all cases are as difficult as this. I just wanted to show how extreme it can become. but it doesn't mean that you have to be able to solve level 7 to participate. In most of these cases, and we've got another Road to Las Vegas case coming up in this week. In most of those cases, I can't even solve past level 5, 6 sometimes, because I don't have enough time, and I don't use pre-built lambdas, etc. So I just like the challenge, and then I spend time afterwards. But I learn every time, and that's the big reason why I tell people to join, is because you learn so much. So don't join because you feel like level 7 is too difficult for you. In a year's time, you might actually be able to solve level 7, and that's the principle here, is to join so that you can learn how to do these things yourself.
Yeah, brilliant, Renier. Thank you. Just in terms of that link tree, so you put the code up on the screen. I've also put the actual URL into the chat. It's linktree/FMWC_SA. So just click that. And then will that have all the actual cases, all the recordings? What about the recording of this actual Zoom today?
So that will be shared on our LinkedIn platform as well. So you can just refer to LinkedIn, just follow us on LinkedIn, and I'll share that on the LinkedIn side of things. But it's also on our YouTube. So the YouTube link is also in the link tree. So you can just look at the link at the YouTube and subscribe, and then you'll find all of our previous recordings and all future recordings as well.
Brilliant, brilliant. So in terms of this recording, I'll send you the link for this Zoom recording when it's available from Zoom, which will be in the next hour. You'll then do your thing and put it up there on YouTube, on LinkedIn, etc., etc. All right, guys. So it's 11:05. Renier, this has been a real masterclass by the maestro himself. Thank you. Thanks for sharing all of those techniques and solutions with us. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you in the chat before you go. Let us know how you found the session. I know there's been a number of messages coming through already. Evanina says, thank you very much for everything shared. So guys, we'll leave the Zoom open for another minute or two just before you go. Pop us a message in the chat. You can also react. You can give us a clap your hands. You can give us an emoji there. All right. So Renier, safe travels. Enjoy your time over there in Bethel. And thank you once again for sharing all your insights with us. Thanks to everyone who has joined us. And this is the end of our 3-part training series. All the best of luck for the first round, which is next Tuesday. And yeah, take care. We'll be in touch soon.
I just want to say thanks, Dan, for being such a good host as well. And thank you for sharing all of your expertise as well. I appreciate it, and thank you, everyone. Hope to see you again.
Okay. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.